Yeah, thank you very much everyone for coming today, and thank you for your interest in hearing the Greenlandic perspective. I believe that right now we're all experiencing how the international rule-based order as we know it is changing rapidly. Usually there's always a time and place where suddenly we say things have changed. The wall has fell. The Second World War has started. The Second World War has ended. The Soviet Union has fallen. But people usually forget that things like that are happening while they are happening. So we have not really set a specific time for that change yet, but I do believe that the way we are seeing international rule-based world order is in this mid of changing. We're not really sure if it's for 2, 4, 5, 10 years, but we are living in the midst of it. And Greenland and the Greenlandic population is right now at a pivotal point for that as well, where we are very aware that we are not only responsible for our own country, our population, and the well-being of the Greenlandic people, but we are also very much aware that we are seeing how the Greenlandic change or discussions with the United States might affect how the rest of the world and the international rule-based order might actually proceed in the future. So we're trying to be very aware of that and proceeding with caution. And though we from Naleraq are the only opposition party out of 5 parties in Greenland, we are very, very important for us to say that Greenland sticks together in these times. The Greenlandic people and the Greenlandic spirit and how we are to move as a nation together. Right now it's more important than ever. We can still have disagreements on different issues internally, but in international politics, importantly, we support each other. So I open now the floor to you and hopeful fruitful discussion. Yes.
Yes, sent the political party who said that they prefer to have talks with the US alone without Denmark. What is your take on what was agreed on yesterday, that Denmark, Greenland and the US together will form some sort of working group?
Well, first and foremost, to give a perspective on this, we believe, as we see right now, if we want more self-determination, and what happened yesterday actually also proved that the entirety of the community of the international order, that it's not only Denmark that can decide the Greenlandic future. We cannot go around and talk on behalf of the Greenlandic people without the Greenlandic people present. So that was a huge step for us as well, to just have our foreign minister, Vivian Matsfield, with them yesterday in the White House. So that is an important step. When we talked about how if there was a real community of the realm, which we also have to strengthen in order to make sure that we are more equal, we have believed that there would have been a level of trust that we haven't had before, that made sure that when the Greenlandic government had to meet with international actors, for example, the United States or others, that necessarily didn't mean that we had to be, separated from Denmark as such. But if there was a level of trust, Denmark could talk to international actors without Greenland like they already do, as well as Greenland being able to talk to international actors without necessarily Denmark present. And therefore, there would be a level of trust between the governments to actually have those dialogues and discussions afterwards. In that way, the Danish ministry could talk about what's happening very close with them, with Ukraine and Russia, and feel confident and certain that the Greenlandic government can do their part in making sure that Greenland is safe and secured for. This is also important for us to talk about these trust and building this trust between the different governments. And unfortunately, I already forgot the last part.
No, what is your take on Denmark, the US, and Greenland?
Right. So the
together
working
having this
group.
working group
Yes,
instead of
course.
only the US and Greenland.
Well, honestly, we haven't really discussed that part other than we're really happy that action is being taken to make sure that these discussions isn't just ended with that meeting alone. And it's really important for us that the Greenlandic government has a say on who's in that working group as well, to make sure that the Greenlandic population and their well-being is thought for as well. Yes.
Rikke Detlefsen, ARD German TV. I wonder, what is your reaction, and you think everybody in Greenland agrees about these NATO troops now coming to help you? Is everybody happy about that, and are you happy about it?
There are a little of concern about the military presence in Greenland right now. I think a lot of the times we're not even having the time to discuss that this is a paradigm shift happening suddenly without further discussion. Usually when there are these kind of paradigm shifts, even in Denmark, when we saw that they wanted drones that could even cross over to Russia, there was a big discussion about these paradigm shifts happening in foreign and defense policies by Denmark. We didn't really discuss those in Greenland. And this paradigm shift goes from Greenland and the Arctic being a very low tension area to basically, without really political agreement, just deciding it's not that anymore. And that's a reality we have to live in. Right now, the official statement from Denmark, and therefore also Greenland, is we are not doing this against the United States, we are doing it with the United States, and they are also NATO members and therefore also going to have special forces trained in Greenland. I feel that the Greenlandic population, even last year, were very concerned with seeing more military presence. You all have to remember, even if it's Danish military, if it's United States military, or other, we are very aware that it's foreign military, it's not Greenlandic military. So it does bring a sense of unease, though I think it's important therefore to also have clear and close dialogue with the Greenlandic population and making sure that all of these operations doesn't necessarily have to happen right next to our schools and right next to our kindergartens, which is what we saw last time. I do think Greenland is so big that it should be possible to do these exercises without going so close to the Greenlandic population. They deserve the right to also feel secure without seeing the threat every single day. Yes.
Yes, my name is Anshul Naleraq. I'm from the Spanish news agency, EFE. I got a question about the president of Greenland, Jens Frederik Nielsen. He said a couple of days ago with Mette Frederiksen that this is not the time to talk about independence, and if he had to choose between Denmark and the US right now, he would choose Denmark. What do you think about it?
I think it's important to stand firm on that we do trust our own Greenlandic government to take the right decisions for us right now. We are standing firm on that no matter what. Naleraq's position will always be that if we do want to keep some sort of international rule-based order, we have to stand on that principle no matter what. And we cannot pick and choose what principle we like to discuss and which principles we think is important not to discuss. The rights for the Greenlandic people to have external self-determination is cleared by the United Nations, where the Greenlandic population have the right to external self-determination, which means independence. And of course, we're still going to stand firm of any kind of international law we are allowed to talk about. We're allowed to talk about human rights. But when that is said, we do want to emphasize that right now we are at a critical point, and we trust the Greenlandic government to do right by the Greenlandic people. Yes, right there.
Alex Max here from The Times. You mentioned that the possibility of Greenland negotiating alone with external partners. And I'm wondering, in the case of the US, what could Greenland gain from a bilateral conversation without Denmark, in your opinion?
Not so much with what the Greenlandic population can gain as such without Denmark. It's more about trust. It's more about that we can actually share the responsibility in a way that if there are trust between the different governments, we can actually work better and smarter and more effectively with each other if we allow each other to actually have those dialogues and discussion. It's not necessarily because we want to keep Denmark or any other nation away as such, but it's about efficiency. It's about making sure that we don't have to always be there every single time, because then the same would also apply to Denmark. They could not have any discussion with Russia or Ukraine or Germany or France without Greenland being present. So it's all about us trusting them and them trusting us.
Does Greenland's diplomatic and foreign affairs committee look like? How many people work there? And do they have enough capacity to deal with so many different countries that have very big embassies and very big consulates all around the world?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, because as of now, we as the Greenlandic people have proven that we are very adaptable. We adapt really quickly. In the terms of the last 70 years, we have gone from being colonized, not even having citizenship, to actually having to say we have foreign policy rights. These changes have happened in a span of a very short time, and the Greenlandic people are a very strong and adaptable people. Our education have heightened in the last 10 years with around 10% of the population getting an education. We are rapidly and really quickly adapting and learning, and I do believe that we can absolutely manage that. I'm not saying it shouldn't be with the cooperation of the different embassies and consulates around the world that are under the kingdom, though we definitely could take a lot of those decisions, but it also matters a lot what we know. Knowledge is key, knowledge is power, and right now we have been saying to the Danish government as well that the intelligence that only goes through the Danish parliament should directly also go to the Greenlandic parliament as well in order to make that happen.
Jeppesen, Reuters News Agency. Could you maybe elaborate your answer to the increased troops in Greenland? So, to what extent do you believe that the increased European military presence reassures the Greenlandic, or as you said, is it uneasing the Greenlandic population?
I do not believe that necessarily this exact operation will make the Greenlandic people more secure as such. I think it's very symbolic, but I do think it also states the fact that we've been saying for many years that Denmark alone cannot defend Greenland. We've been saying that for decades. And right now we're seeing that in action. All 5 parties have stated that we do want closer cooperation with NATO because we know Denmark cannot stand alone. So I do think what we're seeing right now is this is perhaps going to be a more permanent thing and security-wise for Greenland that not only consists of Denmark securing Greenland and knowing what's happening around Greenland, but it's probably going more towards that it's NATO responsibility. Right now with this operation we're seeing there is a quite emphasis that says it is for training purposes and it's not necessarily for already trained personnel. So it is fairly new. It is mostly symbolic, but it could have larger consequences for the security of Greenland in the long term. Yes.
Yes, David Rasmussen, Swedish Radio. You're going to have a meeting with American senators later this week in Copenhagen. What are going to be your message to the senators coming out?
So that's an interesting question. The thing is, I really was surprised of how much coverage that got. It's not the first time we're meeting with the U.S. senators or congressmen, for that matter, in the Danish parliament. But it's the first time that the Greenlandic Foreign Policy Committee is invited as well. So that's a huge step. Because of that, I think there is going to be discussions about what they experience in the United States, Washington, how they experience people talking about the issue of Greenland. We really want to get so much information as we can. But other than that, I honestly don't think we're really going to accomplish anything as such. I think it's more of a light conversation between colleagues. Yeah.
Yes, first, my name is Jørgen Eriksen from the Norwegian TV NRK. First, I would like to ask a little bit about yesterday's meeting. You were saying that your goal is that Greenland can do more of these meetings with different kind of meetings internationally. But on the other side, don't you see the advantage of having a double down with Lars Løkke and experienced politicians who's been there before? Isn't that an advantage for the Greenlandic politicians as well?
I mean, our politicians is very well equipped and experienced as well. I would say that first and foremost. And of course, I think no country in the world, no country, absolutely no one, no individual person for that matter can stand alone. I think it's very important to say so. And I think Denmark knows that as well. That's why they're part of the United Nations, the European Union, the NATO alliance, the Nordic Council. They're also expanding their cooperation with different countries as time goes along, because they know nobody can be alone. We're really aware of the same thing in Greenland, definitely. But when that is said, we also know that the Greenlandic population will always know better what to do about the Greenlandic population, because we are from there. It's our home, it's where we come from, it's our interest, it's where we grew up, it's where we're born, it's where we're gonna die, it's where our children are. The same as the Danish ministers. First and foremost, they're always going to think about their constituency, where they're from. We can definitely cooperate with Denmark, no doubt about that. But we trust first and foremost that our minister can be present. Otherwise, we will not feel safe if it's only Denmark there.
And then I would like to follow up. Would you say the same thing as your Premier Jens Fredrik Nielsen said 2 days ago, that are you agreeing with him choosing Denmark over US at the present?
Honestly, we see the issue as much more complex. I think it's very simplified. I think there are no reason to say it like that. For us, it is always we choose the Greenlandic people, and then we want to cooperate closely with Denmark, the United States, and other nations. But for us, it's always we choose Greenland first. But otherwise, we don't see any issue of close cooperation as we see right now.
And if I may, one more. When you say that, isn't this the time where Greenland and Denmark should be joined as you said, as close as possible, without showing any differences of opinion within the Greenlandic foreign policy at the moment?
Yeah, sure, let's just remove democracy altogether then we can just, no, I'm kidding. No, of course, we're always going to have different opinions. That's the whole basis of democracy. But I do believe that it's also important to remember that we have tried for decades to say that these issues are problems that the Danish government will be faced with one day. We actually tried to negotiate with Denmark for a free association agreement. We tried to discuss with Denmark to make sure that we can have more foreign policy say. We have tried to discuss with Denmark some of the wrongdoings of history so we can fix them. All of these are only being listened to because of the pressure we're experiencing from the United States. So there's also some good that can come with it, but I'm also a bit saddened that we had to come to this before we were taken seriously. I do hope that cooperation can be fixed. We do have some things we have to fix in between Greenland and Denmark, but that's a whole other discussion than when we're talking right now with the United States.
Sweden. Have you been briefed by Vivian Mosfeld after yesterday's meeting? And if yes, what's her take on the meeting? How did she experience it?
I cannot discuss details, and I do believe it would be best to hear it directly from the Foreign Minister of Greenland, so I'm not going to say anything else to that.
And one more. Do you think it's the right time still to fight for independence at this moment?
I mean, the right to external self-determination will not just go away, and hopefully we're not being told to not use our freedom of speech and our right to democratic dialogue because of what's happening right now. International rule-based order was created to be used during the hard times, not only the easy times. I mean, that's the whole reason United Nations came to be. There's a reason where the United Nations said you cannot have colonies anymore. There's a reason the United Nations said that when you are recognized as a peoples of your own, of course you need to have your own right to your land. And right now we're seeing that the international rule-based order is failing a lot of the time in those senses. But we have to keep that principle alive, because otherwise we're looking at a future that's more likely to go on more and more military power usage than diplomacy, and we would really like to avoid that. The Greenlandic people is very much a very peaceful population. We really stand firm on that. We do not have any enemies around the world, and that because of that we want to keep on stating diplomacy, international relations, rule-based order is not something we should be asked to stop talking about. That includes external self-determination. Just because we're having a hard time, now it's the time to actually emphasize that every international law should be followed.
But you sounded a little like you also think the behavior of Donald Trump also has some good sides for the discussion, because it pushes Denmark towards being more understanding and moving or evolving faster but you yourself, what do you think should be done to stop Donald Trump from really wanting to take Greenland? What would be the next good steps?
I don't think anyone has a solution for that, honestly, other than what we saw yesterday. I think we're on the Greenlandic people's side, but also the international rule-based order side. And that's also the statement from our government that we stand firm by. All the Greenlandic parties have made an agreement last week that they all signed that stated we do not want to be American, we do not want to be Danish, we want to be Greenlandic. The Greenlandic country should only belong to the Greenlandic people, and that is something we all stand firm on. When that is said, I think right now the only right thing to do is keep continuing these diplomatic relations, because if you look at the entire of the human history, when there's been conflicts between nations, when there's been conflicts between two different populations, it's always either been resolved by some sort of diplomacy or monetary issue, but most importantly, talking together, trying to figure out and understand each other. And the latter is unfortunately using power and military to destroy each other. And we really want to avoid that. So in order for us to move forward, we have to keep those dialogues open, not only with the United States, definitely with Canada also. They're almost in a similar situation as us, but also in other countries. We need our foreign minister from Greenland to give the Greenlandic perspective on these matters as well. Very important, otherwise it will again be a neo-colonial thing where another country will speak on behalf of the Greenlandic people. We want to avoid that, and I'm thinking we're actually slowly getting past that. Unfortunately, also because of what happened, that's what I'm saying. Wouldn't necessarily call it a good thing, but I do want to call it that I'm saddened by. It's very unfortunate that we had to go that far before we could have more understanding and willingness to make sure that the Greenlandic people were understood and heard.
I'm Aki-Matilda Høegh-Dam from the Portuguese news agency Lusa. As you said, this is the first time that the Greenlandic representatives will be included with the talks with the American senators, as they have been here before, but only to talk with Danish representatives, if I understood correctly. What do you expect is going to change when you are in the room? These people are already on your side, so to say, so they are against Donald Trump's idea of taking Greenland. So what do you expect their influence is going to be when they go back to the US?
That's a good question, and I honestly don't have a clear answer to that. The thing is, we do have 2 parliamentarians elected from Greenland to the Danish